Welcome to Mr. InfoPoints. Today we are going to talk about one of the most important issues on American roads, something that affects millions of drivers every single year, and that is overspeeding. You may think that driving a little faster than the posted speed limit is not a big deal, maybe just 5 or 10 miles per hour over, but in reality, overspeeding is one of the biggest causes of accidents, injuries, and even deaths in the United States. According to the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, speeding has been involved in about 1/3 of all motor vehicle fatalities for decades, and that means thousands of lives are lost every year because of it. So today we will dive deep into what overspeeding really means, how traffic tickets work in the United States, what kind of fines drivers have to pay, real examples of people who face these penalties, and why it is so important to slow down and follow the rules. In the United States, speed limits are not random numbers. They are carefully calculated based on the design of the road, the surrounding environment, and the safety of drivers, passengers, and pedestrians. On highways, limits usually range between 55 and 75 miles per hour depending on the state and the type of road. In some rural parts of Texas, the speed limit can even go as high as 85 miles per hour, which is the highest legal speed limit in the country. But here is the important part. No matter how high or low the speed limit is, if you exceed it, you can be fined. And the fine is not small. Overspeeding tickets in the US are some of the most expensive in the world compared to the average income, and they carry consequences far beyond just paying money. Let us talk about how police officers actually catch overspeeding drivers. Many people imagine an officer sitting in a car on the side of the road with a radar gun, and that is true, but the system is much bigger than that. Across the country, police use speed cameras that automatically detect when a car is driving too fast. These cameras capture the license plate, and the registered owner receives a ticket in the mail. In some states, highway patrol officers drive in unmarked vehicles, blending in with regular traffic, and then pull over drivers who are going too fast. In certain areas, helicopters or even airplanes are used to monitor speed from above, especially on long highways. So the idea that you can just speed when there is no police car around is a myth. The system is designed to catch overspeeding drivers almost anywhere, at any time. Now, let's get into the cost of overspeeding. The amount of the fine depends on how much you exceed the limit and which state you are in. In California, for example, driving just 10 miles per hour over the limit can cost you around $238. If you are caught going 30 miles per hour over, the fine can exceed $500, and on top of that, points are added to your license. These points are not just numbers. They stay on your driving record, and if you accumulate too many, your license can be suspended. In New York, fines for overspeeding range from $90 to $600 depending on the severity. In Virginia, overspeeding more than 20 miles per hour above the limit can even be classified as reckless driving, which is not just a traffic violation but a criminal offense. That means you could end up in court, facing not only fines but also possible jail time. Real cases show us how serious this can get. A teenager in Texas was fined more than $600 for overspeeding in a residential area, where children and families were present. In New York, a driver who was both drunk and speeding not only received a heavy fine but also jail time. In California, a speeding driver lost control of his car on the freeway and caused a fatal crash. According to reports, in just 1 year, overspeeding was a factor in over 12,000 deaths across the United States. These numbers show us that overspeeding is not just about money. It is about safety, responsibility, and life itself. So why exactly is overspeeding so dangerous? It all comes down to physics. When you drive faster, your reaction time and braking distance increase dramatically. At 60 miles per hour, it might take you around 230 feet to stop your car after hitting the brakes. But at 90 miles per hour, the stopping distance increases to almost 400 feet. That difference can mean the line between life and death if something suddenly happens on the road. Maybe another driver slams on the brakes. Maybe an animal crosses the highway, or maybe a child suddenly runs into the street. The faster you are going, the less time you have to react, and the harder it becomes to avoid disaster. Overspeeding also makes accidents more severe. A crash at 30 miles per hour might cause some injuries, but at 70 miles per hour, the same crash can be deadly. Studies have shown that the risk of dying in a crash doubles for every 10 miles per hour increase in speed above 50. This is why speed limits are set where they are. They are not there to annoy drivers or slow down traffic unnecessarily. They exist to save lives, and the consequences of overspeeding tickets go far beyond the initial fine. Many drivers do not realize that their car insurance companies are always watching their records. If you receive even one speeding ticket, your insurance premium can go up by $300 to $500 per year. Multiple tickets can raise your costs even higher, and in some cases, insurance companies may refuse to cover you at all because they see you as a high-risk driver. That means overspeeding does not just cost you money today, it can cost you thousands of dollars over the next several years. You might be wondering what happens if you simply ignore a speeding ticket. Well, in the United States, that is not an option. Ignoring a ticket can lead to additional fines, a suspended license, and even an arrest warrant. Courts take these matters very seriously. If you are caught driving with unpaid tickets or with a suspended license, the penalties become much harsher. Some states may even impound your vehicle. Many people also ask, what exactly happens when a police officer pulls you over for overspeeding in the United States? The process is usually very formal and very strict. When the officer notices that you are overspeeding, they will signal you to stop by turning on their flashing lights. You are required to pull over safely to the right side of the road. The officer then approaches your vehicle and asks for your driver's license, your vehicle registration, and proof of insurance. This is standard procedure. While speaking to the officer, it is very important to remain calm and respectful. Any sign of aggression, argument, or disobedience can make the situation worse. Some drivers try to talk their way out of a ticket, but in most cases, once the officer has clocked your speed, the ticket will be written. The ticket itself contains important information: the speed you were driving, the posted limit, the location, the date and time, and the fine you must pay. Sometimes you are also given a court date, especially if the violation is severe. In certain cases, like reckless driving or extremely high speeds, you may be required to appear in court, and a judge will decide the penalty. For minor cases, you can usually just pay the fine online, by mail, or at the court office. But either way, the violation goes on your record. Another common question is, what if you disagree with the ticket? In the US, drivers do have the right to contest tickets. That means you can go to court and try to prove that you were not speeding, or that the officer made a mistake. Some people hire traffic lawyers to fight tickets for them. Sometimes they succeed, especially if the radar equipment was not calibrated correctly or if there is some other technical error. However, in most cases, the evidence is solid and the ticket remains. So while fighting a ticket is possible, it is often not worth the cost of hiring a lawyer unless the penalty is extremely high. Overspeeding fines also come with another hidden cost: points on your driving record. Each state in the US has a point system. For example, in California, one speeding ticket may add 1 or 2 points to your license. If you accumulate too many points within a certain period, your license can be suspended. In New York, getting 11 points within 18 months can result in a suspended license. That means you cannot legally drive for a certain amount of time, and if you are caught driving with a suspended license, the penalties are even more severe. Losing your license can also affect your job, especially if you rely on driving for work. Let us now talk about overspeeding in specific areas. School zones are one of the strictest places when it comes to speed enforcement. In most states, speed limits in school zones are between 15 and 20 miles per hour. Fines are often doubled or tripled if you are caught speeding near a school, and in some places, there are even additional penalties like mandatory driving courses. This is because children are unpredictable. A child might suddenly run into the street, and if you are speeding, the chances of stopping in time are very low. Overspeeding near a school is considered one of the most irresponsible actions a driver can take. Another area with strict enforcement is construction zones. When workers are repairing or building roads, speed limits are reduced, often to 35 or 45 miles per hour on highways. If you overspeed in a construction zone, fines are also doubled, and in some cases, jail time is possible if a worker is injured due to your recklessness. Signs in these zones are clear, with warnings like, "Fines double in work zones," and police often patrol these areas specifically to catch violators. Now, let's discuss technology. In recent years, technology has made overspeeding enforcement even more effective. Automated speed cameras are widely used in cities like Washington, D.C., Chicago, and New York. These cameras work 24 hours a day and issue millions of tickets every year. Some studies show that the presence of speed cameras reduces accidents by up to 40% in the areas where they are installed. Modern vehicles also come with built-in systems like speed limit recognition and automatic alerts that warn drivers when they exceed the limit. Some rental cars in the U.S. are even equipped with tracking systems that report overspeeding directly to the rental company, and repeated violations can result in fines charged directly to your credit card. One interesting thing about the U.S. system is how overspeeding affects young drivers differently. Teenagers and young adults often face higher insurance premiums already because they are considered inexperienced. If a young driver gets a speeding ticket, the cost of their insurance can skyrocket. For example, a 17-year-old with a clean record might pay $2,000 a year for insurance, but after a ticket, the premium could rise to $3,000 or more. This makes overspeeding one of the costliest mistakes a young driver can make. Overspeeding also affects professional drivers. Truck drivers, bus drivers, and delivery drivers all have strict rules about speed. If they receive tickets, they not only face fines but can also lose their commercial driver's license. Losing this license means losing their livelihood. Companies monitor their drivers closely, and a history of overspeeding can lead to termination. This shows that overspeeding is not just a personal issue. It affects families, jobs, and entire communities. Another consequence of overspeeding is psychological. Many drivers who cause accidents due to speeding live with guilt for years. Imagine being responsible for someone's death simply because you wanted to save a few minutes on the road. Survivors of crashes often talk about how their lives were changed forever, not just physically but emotionally. Families of victims also suffer endlessly. Overspeeding is often seen as a selfish act, where one person's impatience endangers many lives. Statistics prove the seriousness of this issue. In 2021, over 11,000 people were killed in the United States due to speeding-related crashes. That is nearly 30 people every single day. Thousands more were injured, many with lifelong disabilities. Each one of those numbers represents a real person. A father, a mother, a child, a friend whose life was cut short because someone was driving too fast. As we continue, think about this. Overspeeding may save you 5 or 10 minutes on your journey, but is it worth risking your life and the lives of others? The answer is always no. Life is more valuable than time. Another aspect of overspeeding in the United States that often surprises international drivers is how traffic tickets vary from state to state. America does not have a single national law for speed limits. Instead, each state sets its own rules, and sometimes even cities and counties have their own regulations. For example, in California, overspeeding fines are considered some of the strictest, with base fines plus additional court fees and surcharges that can almost double the total cost. In Texas, fines may start lower, but reckless driving charges can quickly escalate costs into the thousands. In states like Virginia and Georgia, high-speed violations can even carry jail sentences. This patchwork of laws means that what might cost $100 in one state could cost $600 in another. Drivers traveling across states must pay close attention, because ignorance of the law is never an excuse. When we talk about overspeeding, we must also consider how it affects the entire traffic system. Speeding is not just a risk to the driver. It creates dangerous ripple effects for everyone else on the road. A speeding car may force others to brake suddenly, increasing the chance of chain reaction crashes. On highways, one reckless driver can cause multi-car pileups involving dozens of vehicles. In 2019, a single overspeeding car in Denver, Colorado triggered a 34-vehicle crash that injured multiple people and shut down the highway for hours. These chain reactions show how one driver's impatience can disrupt entire cities. Let us also look at the financial burden overspeeding places on society. Traffic crashes, many of them caused by speeding, cost the U.S. economy billions of dollars every year. According to government reports, the total annual cost of traffic crashes in America is over $200 billion. This includes medical expenses, property damage, lost productivity, and legal costs. Insurance companies raise rates to cover these losses, which means that everyone pays more, not just the drivers who speed. In a way, overspeeding is not only selfish but also unfair, because it makes all of society bear the cost. Overspeeding is often connected to other dangerous behaviors. Many times, a driver who is overspeeding is also distracted, perhaps by using a phone, eating, or adjusting the radio. Sometimes, overspeeding is combined with driving under the influence of alcohol or drugs, which makes the situation even deadlier. In fact, the majority of fatal crashes involve more than one dangerous behavior. A driver who is both drunk and speeding is 20 times more likely to cause a fatal accident compared to a sober driver at normal speed. We also need to talk about cultural attitudes toward speed. In some parts of the United States, there is a kind of car culture that glorifies driving fast. Movies, television, and even video games often show speeding as exciting, rebellious, or glamorous. Young drivers especially may be influenced by this and may see speeding as a way to show off or feel powerful. But the reality on the road is very different. Unlike in the movies, there are no second chances in real life. A mistake at high speed can destroy lives in an instant. Public safety campaigns in the U.S. try to counter this mindset by showing graphic commercials of speeding crashes, reminding people that speed kills. Another factor is the psychology of drivers. Many people overspeed because they are running late for work, school, or an appointment. Others do it simply because they enjoy the thrill. Studies in traffic psychology show that some drivers have what is called a need for speed, a desire to test limits and feel adrenaline. However, these temporary feelings come at permanent costs. Drivers who survive speeding crashes often say they regret their choices for the rest of their lives. The few minutes they thought they saved were never worth the consequences. Overspeeding tickets can also follow you beyond the state where you were caught. Most U.S. states are part of agreements that share driver records. For example, if you get a ticket in Florida but you live in New York, the violation will still be reported to your home state, and your insurance there will be affected. There is no real escape. Even visitors from other countries who rent cars in the U.S. are not exempt. Rental companies receive the tickets and then charge the driver's credit card directly, often with added fees. Some people ask, what about extreme cases? What happens if someone is caught driving at 100 miles per hour or more? In many states, this is considered a criminal offense. The driver may be arrested on the spot, their car may be impounded, and they could face court trials, jail sentences, or even permanent license revocation. Judges in these cases often give harsh penalties to send a message to others. There are stories of professional athletes, celebrities, and wealthy individuals being fined thousands of dollars or even jailed for extreme overspeeding. The law applies equally, regardless of status. Let us not forget the impact on families. When a person is fined for overspeeding, it is not just their problem. Their family may struggle with higher insurance costs, loss of a car if it is impounded, or even the trauma of dealing with an accident. In fatal cases, families lose loved ones forever. Interviews with victims' families often reveal heartbreaking stories. Parents losing children, children losing parents. All because someone wanted to drive faster than the law allowed. These stories are used in awareness campaigns to remind everyone that speed limits are written in blood. Overspeeding is also connected to environmental issues. Driving at higher speeds consumes more fuel and produces more emissions. According to studies, fuel efficiency drops significantly once a car exceeds 60 miles per hour. This means that speeding not only risks lives but also wastes fuel and harms the environment. At a time when climate change is a global concern, slowing down is both a personal and social responsibility. Even law enforcement officers themselves sometimes face tragedy due to overspeeding drivers. Police cars stopped on the side of the road for traffic enforcement are often hit by speeding vehicles. This has led to the creation of move-over laws in many states, requiring drivers to change lanes or slow down when approaching emergency vehicles. These laws exist because too many officers, firefighters, and roadside workers have been injured or killed by reckless, speeding drivers. As you can see, overspeeding is not a small matter. It connects to law, economics, psychology, culture, environment, and human life. Every ticket tells a story, and every fine is a reminder that speeding is dangerous. Yet despite all of this, millions of tickets are issued every year, showing that many people still do not take the risk seriously. To understand overspeeding even more deeply, we need to look at how technology is changing the way traffic laws are enforced in the United States. In many major cities, speed cameras have become common. These cameras automatically detect vehicles going over the limit, take a picture of the license plate, and send a ticket directly to the owner's address. This means that drivers can no longer rely on spotting police cars to avoid tickets. The law is watching 24 hours a day. Some drivers complain about this system, calling it unfair or invasive, but research shows that speed cameras reduce speeding and save lives. Cities that introduce them often report fewer crashes and fatalities. Police departments are also using advanced radar and laser systems. These devices are so accurate that it is nearly impossible to argue against them in court. When an officer testifies that their radar measured a car at 78 miles per hour in a 50 zone, that evidence is considered very strong. Technology is on the side of law enforcement, not the driver. Another modern development is the use of apps and GPS systems. Many drivers in the US now use apps that warn them about speed traps or police presence ahead. While these apps may help some drivers avoid tickets, they also encourage better behavior by reminding people to slow down. In a way, even technology designed to outsmart the system ends up promoting safer driving. There is also a cultural shift happening. Younger generations in the US are less car-obsessed compared to previous ones. Many prefer ride-sharing, public transportation, or even cycling. With this shift, there is hope that overspeeding may become less common in the future. However, as long as people drive powerful cars on open roads, the temptation to speed will remain. We should also think about how overspeeding connects to fairness and justice. Wealthy drivers can sometimes afford to pay high fines without much difficulty, while ordinary workers may struggle to pay even a small ticket. Some states have introduced income-based fines to make the system fairer. For example, in certain jurisdictions, the amount you pay for a ticket is linked to your income, so a rich businessman and a low-income worker feel the same level of financial pain. This system is controversial but shows how seriously America takes road safety. Education plays a key role in preventing overspeeding. In many U.S. states, drivers who are caught speeding must attend traffic school. These are special classes where drivers learn about the dangers of speeding, watch videos of real crashes, and are reminded of the rules of the road. Completing such courses can sometimes reduce the number of points added to their driving record. The goal is not just punishment but re-education, helping people to change their behavior. Overspeeding has even influenced the design of American roads. Highways are engineered with speed in mind, with long curves, wide lanes, and clear signs. But city streets are now being redesigned to discourage speeding. Speed bumps, narrow lanes, and pedestrian crossings are added to force drivers to slow down. Urban planners call this traffic calming, and it has proven effective in reducing crashes. Another important point is the emotional impact of speeding tickets. Many drivers describe the moment of being pulled over as deeply stressful. Seeing the flashing lights in the rearview mirror, feeling the anxiety of facing a police officer, and the embarrassment of receiving a ticket can be powerful experiences. Some drivers say this moment changes their habits forever. The fear of repeating the experience becomes stronger than the thrill of driving fast. Overspeeding is also linked to workplace consequences. In certain jobs, especially those involving professional driving, a speeding ticket can lead to suspension or even termination. Companies that rely on safe drivers cannot afford employees who break the law. For commercial drivers holding a CDL commercial driver's license, the penalties are even stricter. A single serious violation can end their career. This shows how overspeeding is not just a personal mistake but can also destroy professional opportunities. Now let us step back and remember the bigger picture. Speed limits are not random numbers on a sign. They are calculated carefully, based on road design, traffic flow, and safety studies. Engineers and safety experts spend years analyzing data to decide what speed is safe for each road. When drivers ignore these limits, they are not just breaking a rule, they are rejecting science, research, and community safety. Every sign you see is backed by real human effort to protect lives. At the heart of it all, overspeeding is about choice. Every driver makes a decision when they press the accelerator. They can choose patience, responsibility, and safety, or they can choose risk, danger, and possibly tragedy. The steering wheel is in their hands, and so is the responsibility for themselves and others. This brings us to the final and most important message. Overspeeding is not just about tickets or fines. It is about life and death. Every mile per hour above the limit increases the chance of a crash, the severity of injuries, and the risk of fatalities. Speed is a silent killer, often underestimated until it is too late. So next time you feel the temptation to drive faster than the law allows, remember the flashing lights of a police car, the sound of an ambulance siren, the tears of a grieving family, and the heavy burden of regret. Remember that no appointment, no thrill, and no ego is worth a human life. Slow down, respect the law, and arrive safely. I hope you have learned not only the legal consequences but also the deeper reasons why speed limits exist and why we should all obey them. This is Mr. InfoPoints. If this message struck a chord, share it with someone you care about. Talk about it because conversations change behavior. Subscribe to the channel for more facts, real stories, and practical guidance that can save lives. Drive safe, stay responsible, and let's make our roads safer together, one slow, sensible mile